Welcome, and thank you all for joining us for this very special series of the Crexi Podcast, an insider's look at all things commercial real estate. I'm your host, Shanti Ryle, Director of Content at Crexi, and this is the Women of Influence series, delivering next-level insights and expertise live from GlobeSt's Women of Influence Conference. And today, we are thrilled to sit down with Barbara Morrison. A little bit about our guest. Barbara, a Bay Area small business advocate and civic leader, is the founder and president of TMC Financing, a certified development company that provides SBA commercial real estate financing, which we will be getting into in much more detail. In 1981, Barbara founded the company to provide access to affordable capital with the SBA 504 loan program for small business owners to purchase the real estate utilized by their business. From just 6 employees lending in the 9 Bay Area counties, TMC has grown into the largest CDC in the country. Very impressive. Providing financing for small businesses in California, Arizona, Nevada, Oregon, and Hawaii. Under her visionary leadership, TMC has facilitated over $14 billion in SBA commercial real estate loans for over 7,000 small businesses, leading to the creation of an estimated 60,000 jobs. Wow, thank you for your work. That is absolutely incredible. Barbara expanded her impact, recognizing the needs of smaller entrepreneurs by founding Working Solutions, which is a community development financial institution, in 1999. This initiative sought to address the financing gaps faced by startups, women, minorities, and low-income businesses who were unable to access conventional financing sources. Working Solutions was incubated in the TMC office until it grew into self-sufficiency, and today it is one of the most successful CDFIs in the country. In 2018, she repeated this method for another nonprofit, TMC Community Capital, which is an online tech-based micro-lender. And since its inception, the company has dispersed over $7 million to another 350 businesses. You're just helping everybody out. I love this. Notably, 82% of the loans facilitated by the organization supported entrepreneurs of color, while 56% benefited women and 75% aided business owners with low to moderate income levels. Morrison also developed her passion for small business economic development earlier in her career while serving as deputy director of the mayor's office in economic development in San Francisco. A former mayor herself and city council member for the city of Belvedere, Morrison has been widely recognized for her advocacy for women and small business owners, as your career path clearly shows, as well as her leadership she's provided for many community organizations. And she currently sits on many influential boards and works with other organizations, including the Oakland Chamber of Commerce and the International Women's Forum. Barbara, wow. Welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to be talking with you today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really pleased to be here.
Absolutely. And I know I just really got into the nuts and bolts of your story, which is just so impressive. But I got to ask, why commercial real estate? How did you first get into it, and what about it just inspired this clearly, rippling outward passion that you have for it?
I think I happened to be in the right place at the right time, as I think many career paths start that way. Mm-hmm. I knew that I wanted to work in the mayor's office, and I managed to get myself there as an unpaid intern. And then about 1 to 2 years later, the Congress created this SBA program. Mm-hmm. And I started it for the city of San Francisco. And I loved the program, mm-hmm. and I hated the bureaucracy of city government. And I was young and single and thought, okay, how hard could it be to actually recreate this as a private company without a government paycheck? And so a year later, in 1981, that's when I started the company. And it was such a new program. There was no path. You just forged it. Mm-hmm. And it became so important to me because the program, of course, it's a government program, and it sort of takes a while to go from beginning to end. And you get to know your customers really well. And the stories of each small business, every one was inspiring. Every single one. They started in their basement or their spare bedroom or their backyard, and then they expand and they grow. And we have the pleasure of working with so many of these small businesses that are they're scrappy and they are fast and they are passionate and they just do whatever it takes to keep going. They, bust through whatever roadblocks. They're inspiring, every one of them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Talk about getting a return on investment, just getting to see that creativity, that fire, that ingenuity. I want to make sure our audience, for those who don't know, understand what the SBA 504 is.
Okay.
But then I'd also love to get into, you've obviously seen many, many, many businesses succeed using these financial resources. What are some of the most interesting ways you've seen businesses take advantage of this government funding? And I guess leading into that, how would you recommend small businesses today take advantage of it?
Honestly, I believe that any small business that's going to occupy at least 51% of the building that they're going to buy should definitely consider 504. There are two reasons. The program provides 90% financing, and on commercial real estate, that's pretty difficult to get. And it's not just 90% of the purchase. You can take the purchase price, add in the renovation, and we do 90% of that. So we're financing all of that. And the program is the culmination of the whole concept in public policy of public-private partnerships. In the 80s, when all of a sudden the economists were talking about the small businesses being the engine of the economy, that's what created this. And so honestly, I think it was so creative. Each one of our loans has a 50% first mortgage from a bank. Their regular conventional first mortgage. We come in with a 40% second, and it is based on the sale of bonds in the private market, but the bonds carry a government guarantee. And so they trade at a slight premium over the 10-year treasury. So today, we loan our second mortgage to the borrower at 6.2% fixed for 25 years. So in addition to low down payment, it's also long-term fixed rate financing that you can't get anywhere else.
Absolutely.
And for a small business, they are so loath to take their working capital and put it in the ground that this is the way they can take control of their occupancy costs and not rob the business of working capital.
Absolutely. And it's in an interesting way, you can think of it like philosophically, as you are actually putting roots in the ground, tangible stake ownership in your business idea, which can be scary for a lot of small businesses, I think.
It's probably the biggest financing they will ever do.
Yeah.
People, most of them have purchased a home, but buying a commercial building is a whole nother can of worms.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, in your experience, we're at the Women of Influence conference, and you've worked with a lot of women-led businesses and minority-led businesses. What do you see in these business owners or founders that, it could be qualities, it could be philosophies, but where do you see, what common threads do you see among these people who do take this scariest financial leap of their career to invest in their own real estate?
Well, I think one of the reasons why I relate to them so well is because I'm a small business owner. And so I understand so many of the challenges that they face. I think to be an entrepreneur, you have to be an optimist. My staff always has called me a pathological optimist. And it is naturally, and you have to be, because otherwise you wouldn't take the risk. You wouldn't take that leap, right? And so I think that's one of the things. But the other is really just the passion. You just wouldn't do this if you didn't have a passion for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what carries you through all the time, right? I'm all or nothing on this idea, and I love it, so I'm just going to keep working for it.
That's right.
So kind of going off on a tangent a little bit here, working with all these different types of businesses and different markets. Obviously, there's a lot in flux in the economic sector right now. Are we not going towards a recession? It seems like maybe we avoided it as of July 2024. Do not make me eat my words, please, economy.
Right.
Interest rates may or may not be going down, hopefully, in the next couple of quarters. We don't know. It's an election year, which always throws things into flux. I'm curious, what are some of the trends you're seeing in businesses that are making the decision now to sign on for an SBA 504, and when they do use that to buy the real estate, what kind of real estate are they buying in different markets, especially with office businesses?
Right. The office buildings that we finance are typically medical, legal. They are buildings. Of course, the borrower has to occupy 51% of the building to be eligible. So we're not financing big office buildings that have multi-tenants.
Yeah.
So a user is a much different situation. I think one of the things that's telling about the small businesses that buy their building, yes, we've done thousands and thousands of loans. Today, we have a portfolio of about 2,600 loans.
Wow.
For about $2.4 billion. And remember,
amazing.
that's the 40% second piece. So it's a big financing chunk.
Yeah.
This year, we've had 5 foreclosures. 1 resulted from the death of the owner. 2 were from, businesses that were started right before the pandemic. A yoga studio in San Francisco, just couldn't make it through the pandemic.
Yeah.
But in all 4 of the cases, most likely, 4 of them, the buildings are for sale, and it's very likely that actually we will get full recovery.
Wow.
One of them, we are very fortunate that if the small business can keep the first mortgage current, then we can buy back the SBA loan and modify it. So like in 0809, we had obviously a lot of businesses that went into default.
Yes.
But they kept the first current, we modified the second, and we have now 50 businesses in our portfolio that have been modified and are paying as agreed.
Yeah.
So we don't see distressed properties that often. The users, again, it's because of the way small business owners are. They'll do everything to hold on to their business, right?
Absolutely. There's an inherent assurance in their tenacity, which, it's a good thing to bet on,
That's right. That's right.
And I think, too, you're in an interesting position because, contrary to a venture capital firm, for example, where they work with just as passionate people in the startup space or small business space, I think when they're ready to buy the real estate, they've seasoned the idea a bit more. So there's a bit more maturity, more mistakes were made and learned from perhaps in the past.
Right.
And they're a little bit in a better place to actually make that step, I think, right?
Oh, I agree.
So I want to be mindful of your time. There's a lot more conference to get to. And like I said before we started recording, these are sadly so brief of conversations. So we'll have to have you back on the podcast. But what I'd love to hear from you is what advice would you give to small business owners, especially women getting into the world of small businesses or in commercial real estate, maybe into your sector and try to help with financing for these companies? What advice would you give these young professionals?
I would say that when I started, of course, in 1981, every room that I went into, whether it was a room of bankers or a room of commercial real estate brokers, I was the only woman in the room. And I never took it as a negative. I always took it as a positive, knowing that the good news is they'll remember me. And that helps. They'll remember my name. They'll remember more of what I do. When I first would go into these rooms and say, I'm doing SBA financing, they would go, SBA? Is that like student loans that you don't have to pay back? Nobody knew what an SBA loan was, right?
Yeah.
So I never viewed it as a negative. And I really think in commercial real estate today, sadly, it is still very, very much an old boys club. And the women who enter it, I think, obviously you wouldn't go into it if you weren't passionate and scrappy and competitive, and you just have to say, look, they're going to remember me because there aren't many other girls in the room,
Sure. I think Barbara Corcoran has a similar philosophy when she would talk about her real estate experience. She's like, well, I'd wear my nice heels and my nice outfit, and it actually helped me quite a bit in terms of, again, making those relationships.
That's
so
right.
You're right on the money there.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, Barbara, I wish we had more time. This has been so much fun chatting with you. Where can our listeners get in touch or connect with you if they wanted to learn more about your business or more about you? What are the details?
I'm on LinkedIn for sure, and also tmcfinancing.com is our website. Either one of those.
Amazing. Thank you so much again for
Thank
your
you,
time.
Shanti. Great to meet you.
Likewise, and thank you everybody who tuned in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't miss the next one. Go to www.crexi.com/podcast, and you can get the next one delivered straight to your inbox when you sign up. You can also subscribe to the Crexi Podcast on your favorite podcast app, or check out our YouTube channel for recordings of each episode. Take care, and be sure to tune in next time.